phase plan is absolutely insane. When you think about a synthesizer to create a deep ambient space pad, faceplant might not be the first thing that comes to mind, but as you'll soon see in today's video, faceplant is extremely capable with its unlimited number of oscillators, modulators, and effects to create evocative, lush ambient space pads. It's quite easy inside of one single package. So in today's video, I'm going to show you guys exactly how to create a deep ambient space pad inside of faceplant, and we're going to explore some of the new features inside of faceplant 2.0, such as Remap, LFO Table, and Sidechain Modulation to create an unpredictable ambient space pad that you guys can add to your own ambient productions, all right? So if you like this kind of video, make sure you smash that like button on the way in, subscribe to this channel if you guys feel called to do so, and let's get into some faceplant. All right, so here we are inside of Ableton Live 11. Now, the goal with today's video is to create an ambient space pad inside of faceplant. You know, faceplant is known for its insane sound design capability, the amount of modulation you can add, the unlimited amount of oscillators that you can have, and that sort of like neuro bass squelchy kind of sound that faceplant has become notorious for. But what it's not known for is creating deep, lush, and expansive atmospheres that sort of have an unpredictable quality, and that's what we're going to try to accomplish here today inside of faceplant. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use some of the new features inside of faceplant 2.0 to accomplish this, all right? So I'm going to open up faceplant here, and we're greeted with, if you've never used faceplant before, this is what it looks like. It's got a bunch of generators here, and you can add as many oscillators or sound generators as you want. It's got 3 effects lanes, and you can add an unlimited amount of effects, and then it has a modulator section. So basically, I mean, it's really simple to understand. You know, you have where your sound comes from, it goes into the effects, and then you can modulate it in between. That's pretty much the only page that you get in faceplant. There's no like sub-menus or different menu dives, nothing like that. So here we go. We're going to add a sampler here. Now, this is sort of an unconventional way to start, but I thought this would be a great way to sort of showcase what's possible in faceplant 2.0, just by using something simple and then building something complex on top of that. All right, so I'm gonna load a sample here. And the sample that I'm gonna load is from the choir section. It's called Mixed Choir. And this is sort of a great way to show you how the sampler works as well. So you're greeted with sort of the waveform itself and these loop markers. Now this is where the loop starts, okay? So if we pick somewhere in between, and then this is like the loop marker, and we kind of line these up together, now we have sort of like a slice out of that sample, all right? And we can also play with the crossfade down here. You see it has crossfade. It kind of gives you like a fade in, fade out kind of thing. And it also has a unison mode. If you click this button right here, you're going to enter unison mode. And we can choose something different than the normal unison, right? So we can choose something like it has a bunch of like chords over here. It's really cool. So let's listen to what we got here. That's what we're starting from, all right? Now this is just a basic sampler with your stock envelope on it. So let's just go ahead, hold this down, and we're gonna hover over all of these chords. You see this is sus2, major 7, minor. Let's just go with the fifths, right? Now that doesn't sound like a pad, but it does have a cool timbre to it, all right? So what we're gonna do is right underneath it, we already have our default envelope. Let's go ahead and give it the quick ambient recipe here. We're gonna give it about 4 seconds of attack, about 5 seconds of release, lower the sustain down, and up the decay. Great. Now what we can also do, we have flexible envelopes here, so we can kind of shape our envelope the way we want. And again, we have this unison mode. We have 4 copies of this sample here in fifths, all right? And we can also play with the spread here to give it even more width, all right? And this is sounding good to me, all right? This is already off to a great start. You can play with the, like you can up or down the octave here. We can harmonic, we do phase. We're not gonna touch that yet. We're just keeping it simple, keeping it stock. So that's a good start. Now, before we move on from this section, what I want to do is I want to add a filter here. And what you can do is you can sort of hover in between the envelope and the actual sampler, and it has a little blue line right there. I'm going to click once, and you can add something in between. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a filter here. And so now we have a low pass filter on our sample. And that's exactly what we want, because we can come back to that filter later and start modulating that filter, but at least we have it in the right spot. So you can sort of add filters as you go, right? So what we can do, instead of just lowering the gain down on this so we can start working on something else, is we can rename this. So let's just rename this choir, right? And I can just turn it off. And then I can collapse it by hitting the little minus button up here. Now we have that group sort of tucked away and we can start working on our next idea, okay? So I'm gonna click here once and I'm gonna add a wavetable. Now this is your basic sine to kind of square pulsy wave sort of wavetable, right? That's about as basic as it gets. So I'm gonna do the same thing that I did before. I'm gonna add a filter in between here, right? So now we have a filter on this, okay, cool. But we're gonna go way beyond the stock wavetable by adding some modulators. So that's what we're gonna do right now. Let's add some modulators in a group and I'll show you what I mean. So I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna say analog. Now this is your basic analog oscillator. There's only like, saw, triangle, square, and sine. That's all you get with the analog. But all we need is some sine waves, all right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a bunch of these analog oscillators in a group, okay? And we're gonna name this modulators, okay? So I'm just calling modulators. Now, what I'm gonna do is just like traditional sort of FM synthesis, like how you would use FM, say in Serum or Vital or something, I'm gonna turn the gain off, which means that those are now not even making any noise, but they do have like modulation capabilities, right? So I can use these as audio rate modulators without even having them audible at all, okay? That's kind of important because when you see that the modulation capabilities here rely on having, different waveforms, but those don't need to make sound. That's one of the key points of FM synthesis, is using that to your advantage, right? So let's do this and let's sort of move and morph this wavetable with these modulators without even hearing a single thing from the original modulators, all right? So what we're gonna do is you have this green plus symbol, and that green plus symbol you can use to modulate the wavetable, right? Now, what I mean by that is you can click on it, and then you can sort of say, all right, let's modulate the phase, right? That's sort of one of the main things of Faceplant, is sort of doing this PM modulation, which is phase modulation. And as you can hear, our default stock wavetable now is sort of like, it's crazy. Whoa, right? Okay, so that goes way beyond the traditional sine wave. Now, that's cool, right? We can do stuff with that. Let's actually go take this one step further. So if we have one modulator, and one modulator is, what if we modulated the modulator? All right, so I'm gonna do that right now. So let's go ahead and say, all right, let's modulate this initial sine wave with another sine wave. Okay, and now look. Right, and we can change the octave of this. Right, so everything that we do to that second sine wave is modulating the first initial modulator, and that's modulating our original waveform. Now what we can do here, instead of having it be the stock default wavetable, let's grab something like really crazy, like in this spectral or maybe like overtone scanner. I mean, gosh, you can go nuts here, right? There's such good, it comes with really good default stock wavetables. So when I start moving through this frame, you can hear like, this is wild. Right? All right, cool. Now we've got something going. Now let's get into the modulation capability, because this is where Faceplant really shines. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add an envelope, and we're gonna use that as our master sort of filter envelope, if you will. And I'm gonna give it the basic filter envelope recipe by maybe 2 seconds of attack, a couple seconds of decay, take the sustain all the way out and give it some random release time. And then I'm gonna bend the curves a little bit. And by clicking the orange plus sign, I'm going to click this once and then put it onto our filter cutoff of our main sort of wavetable oscillator. Now, as you can see, it is now connected to the cutoff knob. And we have sort of a nice little ramp there when we play a chord or something like that. It gives us some filter movement, okay? That's cool. Now let's get into the features of 2.0, or some of the features rather. I'm gonna use a traditional stock LFO. Now, one of the features that they touted inside of Faceplant 2.0 was the ability to slow down your LFOs to like basically nothing. I mean, that's cool, right? But for us ambient folks, that's a really nice addition because obviously we want slow moving LFOs, all right? That's cool. We're also going to add a remap. Now, what is a remap? All right, a remap is a way of remixing your modulation signal. Remap is basically saying you have a threshold from 0 to 10. And you could either go straight up from 0 to 10 in a linear fashion, or you can sort of do all kinds of different modulation somewhere in between. So you're taking that modulation signal and you're remixing it, sort of say, all right? You're remapping it, and that's why it's called remap. So the way you use remap is you click this plus sign, and I have like a sort of an orange equal sign over here, and it says click to modulate. Boom. So now we have this modulation is now tied in to our remap signal. Now what we can do is we can send that remap out to somewhere else. So let's go ahead and send this modulation to say, I don't know, the frame of this wavetable. So now, okay, cool, it's moving. That's great. But what if we changed the way that it moves? So let's go ahead and choose one of the, default sort of remap shapes here. There's not many. But do you see now that like it's still moving at the speed that we've dictated on LFO 1, but now it's doing the warbly thing, all right? Wow, that's kind of cool, right? So it's like we have the speed set, but now that speed is being modulated by the warbly thing. So you can go ahead and draw in your own shape here, right? You don't need to stick to the default shapes here. So we can sort of change the grid size, and we can say, all right, let's grab one of these tools here, and I can hold down control, and I can just draw my own shape in here like this, right? So we can sort of say, all right, let's draw like our own little curves, okay? I'm holding down control the whole time, all right? So that's cool. And then we'll go like this, and now we have our own custom curve here, right? So now instead of the warbly, we have this. Now let's slow down that LFO, going back to that LFO speed. All right, it's slowing down. And there you go, right? So now we have a remapped, right, slow moving LFO. Now we still haven't even adjusted our envelope here. So let's go ahead and give it the ambient recipe here by giving it like, I don't know, a couple seconds of attack. Take the sustain to around 80%, give it some release, okay, and some decay. Cool. Now let's go even further with this. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this sort of our custom warbly remap shape. And what if we did some what's called sidechain modulation? So sidechain modulation basically says we're taking what's already modulated, because we've already modulated the phase with this second modulator, and let's introduce the remap into that. So you see how when I hover over the phase, it gives me an option. I could either go straight for the phase, or I could have this little, it doesn't tell you what it is, but it's a yellow equal sign, and that's the sidechain modulation, all right? So if I click that, boom, now we have a sidechain modulation here, which means that this custom warbly shape is now influencing that second modulator. I know, we're getting really complicated here, but that's crazy, right? Like you have the power to do sidechain modulation here, okay? To make some really unpredictable stuff. So let's go ahead and take this one step further. So let's go ahead and we're gonna say, all right, let's now do some further modulation. So we're gonna say, we're gonna auto rate modulate this here, or sorry, phase modulate, okay? At a rate that we choose, okay? And we can say, all right, let's go ahead and, well, you know what we can do? There we go, there we go. We'd actually take the audio rate of this and do some AM here, right? And then we can take our remap and we can say, all right, let's remap this. There we go. Now we're getting some serious movement here. So our modulators are being modulated, right? From this master modulator. That's pretty wild, isn't it? And all of this is influencing what's happening up here, right? Oh my God, that's crazy. And And we can also say, all right, let's do one more step. Let's take this new LFO table and we can say, all right, this is our new LFO table is basically a combination of a wavetable and an LFO. We can take this LFO table and we can say, all right, let's give it a really crazy pattern here, like harmonic wanderer. And we can say, all right, let's modulate now. Let's modulate this phase. Let's sidechain modulate this. Let's modulate this phase, all right? And we can do that through the frame. We can modulate the frame with, say, our warbly thing. So we can take this and we can go like here and we can modulate the frame here like that, okay? Oh yeah. We can lower the speed here of this one. You see how wide we got here? And now, that's nuts. So now we have some really unpredictable movement. Now let's introduce this choir sample again. Let's unbox this group here. Woo! Oh man, we haven't even added any effects yet. Right? So let's quickly add some effects. We can sort of put a cherry on this thing. So let's go ahead and add a compressor. As you can see, you have these lane symbols here. They're all going to lane 1. So we sort of have everything running in serial. You can run them in parallel if you want. So I could say, we could run this to lane 2. We could run this to lane 1. Let's just go ahead and run them all into lane 1 or lane 2. So lane 1 is going into lane 2. Lane 2 is going to lane 3. We're just running everything in serial just to keep it simple. Lower the threshold. I like RMS for pads. That's sort of one of my quick rules here is that you might want to use RMS if you're making a pad. We're going to get it 4:1. We're going to like kind of slow down the attack a little bit. Basic compression, right? Let's add a, I don't know, this one's fun. The ring modulator. We're going to lower the mix down tremendously for a little character there. Okay. Let's add some delay. And we're gonna give it a sync and a ping pong. All right, add some feedback. Now we're getting somewhere. And we're going to add a reverb. Boom. And we're gonna up decay to around 8 seconds. Increase the mix, increase the size, give it some gravity. And we're going to play our backing track. Yes! You see? Phase Plan is absolutely insane. The modulation capabilities alone, combined with the fact that you have an unlimited amount of oscillators, crazy modulation capabilities. You can stack effects until your heart's content. Make this one of the best synthesizers I've ever used in my life, especially for ambient music. Then to create lush, deep ambient space pads, you got it. Thank you so much for watching. I know it took us a while to get there, but we got there. I can tell this is just the beginning of our journey here with Phase Plan. But as far as an ambient space pad, we got it. If you want to learn more, my Patreon is going off right now. We've got tons of extra tutorials. I'm doing exclusive live streams on Patreon. I've got tons of sample packs. We're doing one-on-one ambient coaching. The whole community is growing. So if you want more signs of life, check out my Patreon. The link is down below. You can join for as little as $3 a month and you get access to the exclusive live streams and so much more. I truly appreciate you guys' support. I'm super pumped up about the future and hopefully you guys got something out of today's video and now you can go and make your own deep, luscious, evocative ambient space pad. My name is Chris from Signs of Life. As always, keep your heads in the clouds and your feet planted firmly on the ground. I'll see you guys in the next one.